Tanjiro carried Nezuko's box with her in it down the mountain and used his nose to sniff out where the food was. It was not perfectly easy thanks to the coal and soot in the air from all the forges and blacksmiths. Using his nose, Tanjiro finally walked up to where the yummy smells were coming from and walked in, placing Nezuko's box next to the wall and sat down waiting for his meal to be served. In the meal hall, the love pillar Kenroji was already sitting at the table working through a second dozen of bowls when Tanjiro was served and started eating his modest dinner. Looking at her large piles of dishes, he said,
"That's amazing."
He was impressed with her endurance. Kenroji was looking at Tanjiro's meal and said,
"You really think so? I didn't eat that much today though."
She was blushing as she said this. She was self-conscious of her appetite. Tanjiro enthusiastically nodded. He was genuinely impressed.
"I'm gonna eat a lot and get strong one day too."
Between spoonfuls he remembered about his meeting with Genya and said,
"Oh yeah, the boy you met at the spring was someone from my batch. His name is Shinazugawa Genya."
He ate his food with gusto, after reporting to the love pillar. Kenroji looked surprised and said in response,
"Oh, is that so? That would mean he is Shinazugawa's little brother, right? But he told me he didn't have one. Maybe they don't get along. That's so tragic."
The love pillar paused her eating with a sad look in her eyes. This did not last long, and she went back to eating. At this time, Nezuko was done being in her box, and crawled out, moving towards Kenroji. She made others in the room feel nervous, but because the pillar and Tanjiro did not respond, nobody moved to intervene. They figured the demon slayers could take care of themselves. Tanjiro paused his eating. He was sad by the thought of siblings not getting along as he watched Nezuko come closer.
"Oh, are they? Why is that?"
Kenroji focused her attention on Nezuko and started tickling and playing with her, saying,
"Well, I have 5 siblings and I get along with all of them. I don't really know. I guess the Shinazugawa brothers are just scary."
She was patting and snuggling with Nezuko at this point. She was filled with warm feelings from Nezuko and also from thinking of her own siblings. Tanjiro looked around and realized,
"Genya still hasn't come here. I'd love it if we could just chat for a bit."
He was finishing his meal. Kenroji looked up from Nezuko and said,
"Looks like he isn't coming. And he told the villagers he won't eat at all. Maybe he brought something with him."
Nezuko clung to Kenroji's neck. They both were enjoying the snuggles. Tanjiro looked and smiled at Nezuko.
"I hope he'll be okay. I'll bring him some leftovers."
He wrapped the food from his meal that he did not finish into a napkin and got up. Nezuko looked at Tanjiro and let go of Kenroji's neck. Kenroji nodded happily.
"Yeah, great idea."
She also got up, and they walked out of the meal hall together. Kenroji was singing and holding Nezuko by her hand, and Tanjiro carried his leftovers. As the three made their way back to the sleeping quarters, Tanjiro suddenly asks,
"Kenroji, why did you join the demon hunters?"
He looked at her with a question expression on his face. Kenroji blushes deeply as she starts answering.
Me? It's kinda embarrassing, oh no. Should I?
She was wriggling around in discomfort, giggling.
You see.
She took a deep breath and blurted out.
I joined so I could find a gentleman who would marry me for life.
She closed her eyes nervously. Tanjiro froze. His face starting to develop a cold sweat. His brain couldn't process and understand what she was saying out loud. Kenroji opened her eyes and continued in rapid fire.
Girls actually like men who are stronger than themselves. Girls want to be protected by them. You get it? Maybe this is hard for a man to understand.
She sighed, deeply blushing, trying to calm down. Tanjiro's mind was frozen and racing at the same time. What he didn't realize is that every single person who heard this felt the same way. Everyone in the corridor was standing and staring at the trio. Some were staring because of Kenroji's bluntness. The rest were nervously eyeing Nezuko. Kenroji was finished with her explanation, and the trio started moving towards Genya's room, but he wasn't there. Kanroji sadly said.
Genya isn't here.
She was pouting, as Nezuko was clinging to her. From behind them a guard called out.
Kanroji.
Walking up closer, the guard said.
Your sword will be done very soon. We would like you to come to the workshop, so we can make our final touches.
He was trying hard not to blush at Kanroji and glanced nervously at Nezuko a few times. Kanroji squealed with delight.
Oh, looks like I have to go now.
She softly pushed Nezuko away and danced in delight. Tanjirou looked at Kanroji.
Don't worry about me, I'll see you off.
He was happy for her getting her sword back. Kanroji waved her hand and gave Nezuko an extra hug.
It's fine, I'll probably have to leave in the dead of night.
She was thinking she was going to miss Nezuko as much as her own siblings. Tanjiro was still carrying the food.
No, but, okay then,
He wasn't sure what to do next. He wanted to be nice, but he didn't want to be pushy. Kanroji looked wide-eyed at Tanjiro with a happy gentle smile and said.
Tanjirou, I don't really know if we'll be able to see each other alive next time, but let's just do what we can.
She was happy to have gotten to know Tanjiro and Nezuko closer.
You survived a battle against an upper moon. That's already a great learning experience.
She knelt and patted Nezuko's head.
Practically speaking, there's nothing more valuable than experiencing something like that. That equal to 5 maybe 10 years of intense training. You're definitely a lot stronger now than when I last saw you, Tanjirou.
She stood and took a step back.
Kanroji Mitsuri fully supports the Kamado siblings.
She smiled assuredly to Tanjiro. Tanjiro and Nezuko stood wide-eyed and happy with the compliment.
Thank you so much.
Was all that Tanjiro managed to squeak out. Nezuko stepped forward and reached up to hug Kanroji again. Tanjiro continued.
But I still have a ways to go. I only won because Uzui helped me. I will work harder than ever before, so I can beat Muzan Kibutsuji.
Kanroji was blushing and impressed by Tanjiro. Raising her hands to her mouth, she squealed. Between squeals she said.
Tanjirou, you got permission to stay here a little longer, right?
Tanjiro nodded.
Oh, yes, for now.
He wasn't sure how long he would be. The guard was still waiting for Kanroji and cleared her throat, getting the trio's attention. She still needed to do her job. Kanroji came closer to Tanjiro and whispered in his ear.
I heard there's a secret weapon in this village that makes you stronger. Go look for it.
She turned and ran, calling out.
Later.
Over her shoulder. Nezuko raised her small arm and waved her hand at Kanroji. Tanjiro raised the food above his head. He was protecting it from the nose bleed that was building up and sprayed all over the place.